Hey, what's up? This is Armour3 here. The most recent Acronym season definitely seems to have captured some people's interest, and that is specifically relating to their most recent drop and two pieces in particular, the P31A-DS and the J68PL. The former billed as a ultra-versatile pair of cargos, something that you can wear in all kinds of situations, and the latter an insulated cropped rider jacket with lots of different ways of wearing it. Both of these pieces came in multiple colours, giving people a lot of choice, including the multicoloured J68. They were stocked by quite a lot of retailers globally, so there's quite a lot of choice there, and in general I think the prices came in a little bit more reasonable than what people were expecting. I picked up one of these, the P31A-DS, so we'll take a look at those in a little bit more detail and see if they represent the ultra-versatile, easy pickup people seem to be describing them as. We'll also have a look at the J89-AD, which I picked up in Drop 1 this season, which was a month or two ago now. First, let's look at the P31A-DS. These came in at €891, putting them firmly at the low end of the spectrum for a full-featured pair of Acronym cargos. If you compare to something like the P37, for example, which came out this season too, you're looking at over €1,200 for those. There's a pretty substantial difference. These do have a drop crotch, although less exaggerated than many other models, and they have a fairly relaxed cut that slims down to a nice little taper at the ankle. It's a fairly easy to wear cut. I think it's going to be relatively flattering on most people, and that is exactly one of those things that makes this an easy to wear and style pant. It's neither super oversized and attention grabbing as the P30, P27, P25, etc., but neither is it as form-fitting as the ultra-sleek perennial favourite P10. The leg opening has a little bit of room to it, so perfect for pairing up with your average or maybe even slightly chunkier shoes, and that's kind of bolstered with a reinforced cuff on the underside, so it's going to stand up to hours and hours of bashing against your Air Force Ones or, just general scuffs and wear and tear. As is common on Acronym drop crotch pants, these use a draw cord system to secure them, and unlike older models, they don't also have belt loops, so you are purely relying on those draw cords there. However, the buckles provide quite a lot of resistance here, so you can pull these tight and feel pretty confident that these are actually going to stay up. It's exactly the same thing that you'll find used in the P30ADS. Pants which use this mechanism have a naturally oversized waist, which means that when you buy these you should be sizing for your length rather than your width. Essence were the most recent retailer to make this mistake, and the results, well, they're not supposed to be cropped pants, let's put it that way. So the best thing to do would be compare the measurements to a pair of pants that you already own and fit you well. I'm quite a long boy, I'm around 6'2", so I went for XL in these, and I think the length on them is pretty much perfect. There's quite a lot of room in the waist though, as you might imagine, so I've got to cinch these down quite a lot, but it does mean that these will accommodate someone a fair bit thicker than myself. There's an easy few inches to play with here. The big standout feature, both aesthetically and functionally, is the massive square pockets that you'll find on each leg, and they do literally stick out with those little square edges pointing directly upwards that gives a very clear visual separation between pocket and pant rather than integration. It's a design shared by the P10A from SS19 and immediately separates these from a kind of military looking product or even a regular pair of streetwear cargos. I think this is very much feels like a uniquely Acronym design. It's fair to say these are absolutely enormous, with a two-sided zip track that both makes it easy to access, both when you're standing up and sitting down, and opens up the pockets really significantly, allowing you to put pretty big items in there. And those little square corners make the perfect handle to grip while you unzip. It also visually separates the design from other cargos like the Nike ACG ones, which also use a similar square shape and that two-sided zip track. But yeah, these passed the switch test, and you don't even need to take the Joy-Cons off. That's how big these pockets are. They also have little sub pockets in there for you to put your phone in. Personally though, I feel like for a device that you tend to access quite often, you don't really want it locked away in a cargo pocket like that, so I would just put it in the main pockets. These, the main pockets also have little phone sub pockets in here as well, so you can still do that. Or you could store 4 different phones, each in its own sub pocket. Functionality. Now the size of these pockets is both a blessing and a curse. As I mentioned, they do stick out quite a lot, and while that is intentional, that is by design, with those extra little square accents on the edges there. Personally, I feel on me it creates kind of too much width in a way that is quite difficult to balance. With a lot of my t-shirts, there's a real kind of separation between how wide my torso is and then how wide my thighs are with the kind of extra weight of the pockets. And I don't think that is a particularly flattering look. So I do feel a little bit restricted in that department to either wearing pretty oversized t-shirts to help kind of balance that weight, or only being able to wear with multiple layers that can help kind of bulk out my top half a little bit so that the pockets don't seem quite as out of place and quite so big. Now I will say that I think this is partly down to my kind of size and my build, in that I have these in XL. This is the biggest size that you can get for these pants. But, you know, as things go, I'm a fairly slim build overall, so I don't fill these out, I feel, in the way that many XL buyers would. So I think these will be a better buy if you're a bit wider relative to your height. And I have seen other pictures of people wearing these where they do seem to look better and those pockets don't seem to have the same effect that they do on me. It's a shame because I think without those pockets, the silhouette of the pant is actually quite nice on me and I think would be pretty wearable, and I could certainly get a lot of use out of. But I feel like I enjoy them in spite of the pockets rather than because of them. And I think with a product like this, you really have to like all of those kind of visual features, or else you're just kind of wasting your money a bit, I feel. That's coupled with the height of the pockets being pretty much exactly where my hands would normally sit, and while that's good for an accessibility perspective, it's pretty easy to reach into the stuff that's in here. It also means that when I'm walking around or when I'm just standing about, you can probably even see it in this footage, that my hands are kind of brushing against the edges of the cargo pockets quite a lot, in a way that's very slightly annoying, and it kind of makes me feel like I don't want to have my hands by my sides. I either want to like put them up here somewhere, I don't know, or just like put them in my pockets, just so they're not brushing against my hands all the time. So yeah, I guess from that perspective, it's kind of another mark against the pockets, unfortunately. One other big selling point about these pants, certainly a big selling point for me, was the color choices. These come in black, you got RAF or RAF green, and alpha green as well. So the ones that I've got are the alpha green variant. This is the first time that Acronym has offered a dry skin pant in this color, so it's a little bit special for that reason. And as someone that's, you know, I've already got quite a lot of pants already, I've already got a couple of dry skin pairs of pants as well. So having something in alpha green, I think kind of unlocks some more options there. And I think just looks a little bit different, a little bit interesting, and it definitely appealed for that reason. And in hand, I think the alpha green colour definitely doesn't disappoint. It's called alpha green. It's actually a very light touch of green in a kind of grey stone kind of colour. It's very subtle looking, it's quite desaturated looking, and it looks pretty good, I think, with both white and black. I definitely feel like, you know, wearing these with the white Air Force Ones, I think that combination just looks kind of, I don't know, it just looks real nice to me. I'm a big fan of that. There have been a few other things that have come out in this colour. You've got the J68 from this season, and you have previously the P10s came in an alpha green version, and there was also the J33 as well, the jacket. Although important to note that because this is the first time they've done it in dry skin, there is a little bit of colour variance there. They are not exactly the same. Comparing the colour to things that I own, these are not dissimilar to the earth colour used by Antwon, although I do find myself preferring the alpha green. They're a little bit more of a kind of desaturated stone colour and not quite as olivey as the Antwon stuff. If you're coming at this from the perspective of someone that's looking to pick up their first pair of dry skin pants, or they just want something that they can wear all the time, then black or RAF are probably going to be the better options there. I think they'll be a little bit more wearable. However, I think the alpha green colour is still super nice, and if you're more like me, you got a couple of pairs of dry skin pants, you got loads of black pants already, you want to mix things up a bit, then I think alpha green is a very unique colour, but still not super crazy and not impossible to integrate with a fairly muted wardrobe. So there are quite a few good things about these, but I just feel not as flattering as they could be on me. It's a shame they didn't re-release the standard P31 in the alpha green colour. I think that would have been a much better pickup for me personally. Or if they had an alpha green version of the new P37, for example, which I think have, you know, much smaller and more integrated cargo pockets, plus that new tension zip design, which seems pretty cool. I think either of those options would have done a better job of scratching that alpha green itch. So I am going to be returning these, unfortunately, but I still think they're worthy of consideration. Just maybe not on me, and they're maybe not best suited to someone with my build. Now, what about the J89-AD? This is exactly the kind of product where I feel a lot of people think, why would anyone buy that? And yet, this was one of the first things to sell out from the first drop. Even Errolson was surprised at how popular this was. The real big defining element of the J89-AD is that Alpha Direct material. I'm a real big fan of this. I bought the LA6B-AD about a year ago, and yeah, I think the material is great. It's super lightweight, it's nice and warm, it's comfortable, it feels cozy, and yet, because of that extremely open structure, when you're kind of moving around and doing stuff in it, it's not kind of cloying, it doesn't trap heat at all, it's very kind of breezy and it lets that air through a bit. So I just feel it's really nice to wear, and I've probably worn the LA6B more than any other Acronym product. I also think it looks pretty cool up close, although I do have to admit its weakness is its fragility, and this is not going to hold up to abrasions or getting caught on anything. Even Velcro can be a real nightmare for this material. This is a slightly different and a more complex design with a slightly higher price tag compared to the LA6B, so let's have a look at what some of those differences are. The collar is the big one here, which gives it this kind of hybrid noragi cardigan type appearance. With this folded over placket here, it's a very effortless, kind of easy to wear kind of look, in a similar way to the LA6B, but certainly more protective than that. And yeah, the cardigan-like appearance, I think, is hard to deny. People have been calling it the Mr. Rogers sweater for good reason. I think it's that classic look that really prompts people to think, well, why would you buy this over a different Acronym product which looks more kind of futuristic or whatever. But I think it's about how this works into the Acronym ecosystem and how it can be part of an interesting kind of technical outfit rather than just something to be worn by itself. So this, of course, great as a mid-layer. And part of the way that Acronyms signify that is with the Orc zip on the back. It's basically saying, yes, this is designed to be zipped into an Acronym shell. And yep, I can do that with my J1. It even works on the Nike Lab ACG Alpine jacket. That was actually part of the reason that I was attracted to the J89, because I thought, yeah, this will be this cool mid-layer piece. I can zip it into my shells. It's going to be really cool. But actually, I found that the Orc zip functionality was not particularly useful, because I found myself, similarly to the LA6B, wearing this by itself so much, and often wanting to take the jacket off but leave this on, that having it zipped into a shell has not actually been that useful. I think this functionality would be better suited to, I don't know, something like the J58, where maybe you would zip it into a shell because you know that you're just going to want that jacket insulated all winter. You're probably not going to want to wear the J58 just by itself. So while the Orc zip is not as useful as I thought it would be, that's actually testament to its versatility. I'm very happy to wear this as an outer layer, just as I am a mid layer, and in fact part of that is due to the kind of convertible nature of this product, the number of different ways that you can wear it. You can have that collar there flipped down, where it does have this kind of cardigan, noragi-like appearance, or you can flip it up too, and then that gives the neck a bit more protection, helps keep you a bit warmer, and you can also use that to button this up as well, giving you kind of further protection. And of course, you can easily roll the sleeves up here, you can keep it open, so it's pretty good in kind of variable temperatures, and that's particularly because of the Alpha Direct material as well, which, as I say, it has that bit of warmth, but is also quite kind of airy and breezy. It just does a good job of helping you regulate temperature with all of those little changes that you can make. I also think when you're wearing this as a mid layer, having this flipped up like this, it almost gives a scarf-like appearance to the J89, which I think is quite cool as well. You've got that little bit of neck protection where maybe on some jackets you wouldn't actually have that by itself, or it just gives a bit of extra comfort where normally you would have a shell kind of against your neck. You've got nice comfy Alpha Direct instead. This has a slightly more generous fit in the body than the LA6B, so I bought this in my regular size of a medium compared to the LA6 where I had to actually size up one. But I would say even there, the sleeves come up pretty long on this thing, so I think if you've got shorter arms than myself, you might actually find quite a lot of pooling there. And that's partly because the cuffs on this are quite snug as well, so you've got no chance of doing these up and then having them kind of hang over your hand a little bit. You'd actually have to wear these undone if you wanted to do that. Aside from that, I think the fit is pretty good. It drapes nicely, it's got a little bit of a kind of flowy, relaxed look to it, it's not kind of too tight, and I think this is exactly the kind of fit that you would want from this kind of product. The only downside of this from my experience so far is the little placket doesn't really like staying in place that well. It kind of tends to just flap out and kind of do its own thing. It doesn't really keep that nice tight shape to it. I don't know how this could have been solved, maybe with like a button down at the bottom or something to actually like physically hold it in place. I think it's really because of that material, because it doesn't have that much kind of structure to it. It is very open, very flowy. Yeah, it's just seems to want to do its own thing, and it's, you know, not the kind of thing that you can iron in place either, really. So it's a bit disappointing that the product page has pictures of a bunch of different ways of securing it as if it can be worn loads of different ways, but quite a few won't stay in that position. Admittedly, I didn't buy this thinking, oh, I can't wait to button this up 5 different ways, but I feel I have to mention some of the functionality shown doesn't work particularly well. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I like the LA6B a lot, and I just wanted something else that I could wear as a nice mid-layer that maybe has a little bit more of a protective element to it. I was really enamored with that J36 picture that Acronym released with the first drop, where they've kind of got it as this nice mid-layer. It's going underneath the jacket, you got all those different textures, and yeah, it really appealed to me on that basis, and I think it's going to do a good job of exactly as it shows in that image. If I had to pick one, I would maybe go for the LA6, just because it being a button-up shirt is the easiest thing in the world to wear, and some people are not necessarily a massive fan of the cardigan design of the J89, which is totally fine, that's understandable, and the LA6 is a little bit cheaper too, so you're still getting that great experience of the Alpha Direct material, which I really like, but saving yourself a few hundred in the process. So those are my 2 Acronym pickups this season. I think both of them have some real strong points, some things to like about them for sure, and I'm definitely going to see myself wearing the J89 on a fairly regular basis, I think, just as I did the LA6B. In both cases, they're definitely unique and to a certain extent innovative products, which is very much Acronym's thing. Yeah, P31, not really for me, I think, but they may well suit some people better than myself. There are still some things to release this season, so keep an eye out for those. And yeah, that's everything on these things though, the J89-AD and the P31A-DS. So if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful in some way, then please do give it a like because it is super appreciated. And as always, we will catch you next week with another video. Shout out to Sickmate, Akuya, and Revox. I'm sorry I couldn't bring myself to upload the cursed thumbnail, even though I made it specifically to extract as many YouTube views as possible. And shout out to Chillman Chill, appreciate the Vans MTE suggestion. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people recommend those, and personally, you know, I've got a pair of the North Face ones, which are effectively the same model, and I think they're a lot more comfortable than a regular pair of Vans, that's for sure. And yeah, they do have that water resistance as well, so for winter stuff, I think there's a lot to like with those. They don't seem to be too expensive either, which is good. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. We've got a bunch more stuff coming up next week, and the week after that, and the week after that. So if you haven't subscribed yet, then definitely consider doing so. Stick around, because there's a whole bunch more content that's coming up. And yeah, there's going to be more videos up here too that you can check out. And that is everything from me, so boom, see you next week.